So let's go on to question 2, and here we have to switch to the student tab. So there's student, and we can see here rows of names, first name, last name, and every student has a student number, and we see they're receiving a grade. Now, that grade you see here is not a percentage. The grade for numeracy, or ability with math, is 65 divided by 110. For literacy, 64 divided by 125, and 56 divided by 95, and we need to convert that into percentages. So let's go ahead, we'll start with the equal sign, okay, and to get a percentage, well, you just click on the cell of interest and do a divide. And what are we dividing by? 110, and we press enter, and we see this person got a not a very impressive score of 59. Now, if you didn't get a percentage in there, you'll need to format it. Okay, so the way you would do that is right click, go to format, okay, and you would select percentage. Now, if you're getting multiple decimal places, like 2 decimal places here, okay, and that doesn't look right to you, okay, you can change that. Put 0 decimal places in there. So we'll make that 0, and now we have no decimals in there. So we can go ahead and just copy that formula down, but when we do that, oops, something really bad happens here. We get ridiculous percentages like 200% and error messages. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Control Z to undo, and I'm going to look at that formula very carefully. Now, that D5 is highlighted in blue here. All I did was double click on the formula, and I can see that's going to move down. As I copy my formula, that D5 becomes D6, D7, and so on. So that's not the problem. The problem here is this D2. D2 is jumping around, and we don't want to do that. We want to fix D2, and we do that by putting dollar signs in. And again, if you look at your keyboard, top row, you will see F4, the F4 function key. If you press that, it very quickly puts in the dollar signs for you. So I think that's correct now. We have just fixed that cell. That's not going to jump around when we copy the formula. So let's go ahead and do a quick copy. And that looks correct. Okay. Let's do the same thing with literacy and science. So I'm going to put an equal sign in there. And again, it's the score, the grade the person got, divided by 125. Okay, that test is out of 125. And that E2, this value right here, we want it to stay the same. So press F4 on your keyboard to fix it. And again, ensure that you have the correct number of decimal places you want. So you can go into the cell formatting and set that to 0. So let's go ahead and copy that all the way down. And you can see we're doing it correctly because we're getting an OK right above it. Let's do the same thing now for science. Okay, so the science grade here is 56, and we divide that out by the absolute reference to F2. So this time I'm going to actually double click on F2 and manually put in the dollar sign. So you can use either method that you feel comfortable with. So the dollar sign beside the F means the F is not going to change. We're going to stay in the F column. And the 2, the dollar sign beside the 2 means we're going to stay in the 2 row. So that one cell does not shift. And we're going to go ahead and copy it. Okay, now this time I got the percentages in there, so that's a bit of a problem. So like we did before, I can go in, go to cell formatting and reduce it to 2 cells, or rather reduce it to 2 decimal places. But there's another trick here. okay, instead of reducing it down to 0 decimal places, what I can do instead is I can go to another cell where the formatting is correct, and if you look carefully, you'll see a little paintbrush in the top left-hand corner. You'll also find that in Google Sheets. Look for the Format Painter. So start in a cell where the formatting is correct. That's correct, and that's what we want to change. Okay, there are 2 decimal places. We don't want any. So let's click the Format Painter. If you look at the mouse cursor, it now has a little paintbrush on it, and we're going to paint across that column there. And it automatically copied the formatting from this cell to that cell. So you can copy data, and you can also copy the formatting as well. Now we want to see her average grade. So the average, well, we can use the average function, or we can add up those 3 numbers and divide by 3. So both are perfectly good. Okay, so, but I think we need to use the average function here, even though there's more than one way of doing it. So let's put the average in, and we're going to sweep across Joan Helen's grades. So for numeracy, 59%, for literacy, 51%, and again for science, not very impressive, 59%. We'll close off the bracket, we press enter, and we see she got a grade of 56% across all 3 disciplines. With highest, well, that's the max function, so we're going to do the same thing here. So we'll put in our max function. And we sweep across all 3. And then we close off the bracket and press enter. And then, of course, for lowest, okay, that's the min function or minimum function. Sweep across all 3, close off the bracket, and we don't have the little OK at the top, so we need to copy the formula down, and if we did it correctly, we'll see the OK indicator at the top. So we grab the handle, copy it down, come back up, and we have our OK. So let's finish this off. And that is it for that question.